Resume recording. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Lauren McCartney here. Thank you for being here for your roadmap for your out-of-state job search. Exciting stuff happening in career services this month. Our new assistant director, Brad Grimes, joined us early last month and has been working really hard on a lot of our OCI opportunities. And I just wanted to give him a chance to say hello so that you're familiar with his face.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lauren, for that chance to introduce myself. It's very nice to be here and to see some new faces. I'm really looking forward to meeting lots of students this year. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me and schedule an appointment. But I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation today about the out-of-state job search, Lauren. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Brad. You can schedule with Brad on Calendly, like with me. I've circulated his links a couple times. I will very briefly give a little bit of background about Brad. He's a 2007 grad of the College of Law and has worked in the legal sphere, has taken a pretty cool career route, kind of making decisions that met his needs in the time, and, with respect to his whole life and his family. Has most recently been working with students at the LGBTQ+ Center. And so we're really glad to have him up here at the College of Law. I think that you will find him to be a very valuable resource. Okay, moving on. So I can't hear you all. I don't know what's going on with my sound. If you want to drop something in the chat, that's awesome for the people that are here. I know that people are going to be watching this on some, the recording of this later. And out of respect for some of the privacy, I'm not going to call on anybody today. So I know you're listening in. Thanks for being here. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So when we think about an out-of-state job search, and any job search really, I cannot overstate the value of small steps, that you are going to be doing a lot of little things that maybe don't feel like they're doing much, but that it's going to take time, and that we don't want you to expect that you're going to be able to, hit a home run with just very little effort. So with respect to finding a job, nationally, we see statistics, and this is not just for entry-level job seekers, but for all levels of job seekers. We see that 70% of all legal jobs are acquired through professional networking and or personal referrals. My first job was a direct apply through OCI. My second job was definitely something that it wasn't a posted job. It was somebody who knew I was looking for a job and said, hey, why don't you apply at my firm? 20% of jobs are acquired through responding to active job listings, and 10% of legal jobs are acquired through a direct application approach. Direct application refers to when you are sending off a resume with no posted job, with no contact in that agency or firm, and you just send off your application. So most of it, what's going to happen is by the people and job posts that happen. I think really the sweet spot is when there's an open job post and you know somebody who works within that organization who can give you a referral. I also want to share some of the graduate employment statistics. About 63% of our grads take a job in West Virginia, and another 35% of our grads take a job outside of West Virginia. I know sometimes the source of this is from the class of 2021, a pretty formal document. I know I pass it out a lot, called the NOW report. I would say this is a pretty consistent metric that we see for students. Typically, the people who come from in-state stay in West Virginia, and the people who are from out of state tend to go back out of state. Of course, that's not a one-to-one at all times. We see that varies some, but that tends to be a trend that I've observed. So I want, though, for you all to understand, I know that sometimes it can feel like everybody's getting a job through OCI, or everybody's getting a job in West Virginia, and I don't even know what's out there for me. Every year we have a huge share of our students go out of state, and you are not alone in this process of doing some of the extra work to find the job that you want in the market where you want to be. Okay, so another statistic, again, kind of reflecting on the national trends. This is again from the NOW report, reflected from the class of 2021 grads. Our class of 22 report will be out soon. But again, I see this play out time and time again as to how students say that they found their job. In this particular class, about 23% of them said that they found their job through an OCI program. Another 7% of them said that they found their job through and internship, externship experience. So that may have been, they originally got it through an OCI process, but then they, clerked there a summer and went back. Another 7% responded to a career services office job post. And then another close to 20% responded to a job posted online or in print. 1% found a job through a clerkship application process. A lot of times judges have their jobs posted on a separate portal. 3.5% returned or continue with a pre-law school employer. Somebody may come to law school as a legal assistant and then go back to the firm where they were working as a lawyer, or they've already been working with an organization and they continue with that organization, either in the same role. Sometimes, you might come to law school with a job where a JD will help you move up, or, however that goes. 16.3% are getting them through referrals. So again, a very significant way to find a job. 3% start their own practice. That's great. 14% say that they found their job through a self-initiated contact or networking. And then another 6% said other kind of way. And the employment rate for this class, there were 94 jobs out of 100 students. So again, we are seeing grads get employed. I just want to emphasize again and again to you all that our grads do get jobs as lawyers, and that it's often through it's a longer process a lot of times for our out-of-state students. It is. Things stay kind of up in the air for a little bit longer. But that said, they do find the employment that they want to find. And so I thank you for being here to start working on that. So one of the first things I want to start talking about today is networking. I won't ask for a show of hands, but I know that when I say networking, a lot of people, if I were to ask, do you have a positive feeling about networking or a negative feeling about networking? A lot of people would say, I don't feel great about it. It feels intimidating. And so I want to start by defining networking. Networking is making a connection with another person, establishing a relationship, and nurturing that relationship into a mutually beneficial relationship. So again, obviously the main emphasis on this is relationships. And I know each of you who are on this podcast, on the webinar today, and I know that you are good at this. I know that you build relationships and that you're connected to your classmates and that you are very able to do this. And I think that one of the mistakes that I see law students making is thinking of networking as being a very transactional sort of thing. I'm going to go to this happy hour, and at this happy hour, I want to talk to 10 lawyers and I want to have a job, by the end of the month out of this one networking happy hour. That's not really how I want you to think about it. I want you to think about building a relationship and meeting some people today and then following up with them later, or learning about an employer today and getting to know them. And I think that that's a better way that puts less pressure on what you're doing, that helps you move forward. So again, this should reassure you. I'm not saying it's easy. So much of what we do in career services, and especially what I'm talking about today, is that it's pretty simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy to do. In no way is finding a job an easy thing to do, even though the steps are pretty simple. And then you have to repeat those simple steps even when it's hard, and you can improve on it. So networking 101, again, I want to emphasize you network every single day. Some of my most valuable networking contacts are actually from my law school class. Of course, I'm a person who went to school in state and stayed in state. So for you all, we want you to be very, very intentional about getting out and talking to people, whether it is, I know that one of you on here was in a sorority and fraternity. So at this point, this summer would be a very good time for you to, if you're out and you see some people that from your college, experience, you need to, say I'm in law school and here's how this is going. And who can you introduce me to? So, on one hand, it is just making friends, but on the other hand, it's making friends intentionally in a way that, in a goal-directed manner. So one of the things that I want when you go out, or maybe you've joined a bar association in the place that you want to be, or you're networking on LinkedIn, is I want you to practice introducing yourself. And this should be pretty easy. I know all of you students that are on this, so I could do this for you. And I would definitely be more than happy to work with you on how you want to introduce yourself. But, you know, at this point in my career, if I were to go out to a bar event, which I do pretty often, or a lot of the people I'm meeting these days are parents of my children. And so, you know, I could say, I will introduce myself and they say, you know, what do you do? I say, oh, you know, I work with students at the law school and, you know, helping them with career readiness. That's it, you know. If they were to ask me more questions about it, I would say, you know, it's something that really excites me. It's, you know, definitely something that I enjoy doing. And I love, you know, the day-to-day, the interesting problems that they bring to me. What I wouldn't say is, oh man, it's like a really hard job and roll my eyes. And, you know, that's not very positive. So when I work with students, a lot of times they may say something like, oh, I'm in law school, class went poorly, I got a bad grade, you know, I just want a job, any job. And so what I want it to sound a little bit more like when you're a student might be something like this. You know, I am Lauren. I just finished my first year at WVU Law. I really enjoyed my classes on legal writing and property, and I'm looking forward to taking bankruptcy next semester. This summer, I'm working, you know, for the state government in actually my first summer. This summer, I'm working for the state government, the Division of Highways, and I'm really enjoying getting exposed to a lot of different issues. Another way that you might say something is I came to WVU Law after earning my accounting degree at Marshall. I really enjoyed my tax and business law courses at WVU, and I'm seeking a role at a firm with a strong transactions department. Or something might sound like this. After interning with the Public Defender's Office for 2 summers, I'm seeking a role in a public interest organization. I have really enjoyed my work with underserved clients. Or maybe you're, you know, for you all, you've come to WVU Law, but you know what market you want to go to. My girlfriend and I are moving to DC area for her job after I graduate this spring. I'm in the family law clinic this year, and I would like to join a small practice in Northern Virginia that has a divorce and family practice. In each of these sentences, you're describing yourself and your goals, but you're also creating an opportunity of a connection point between you and the person to whom you're speaking, right? So that's really important. I'm not just a lawyer, any lawyer. I'm a lawyer with a goal. The more connection points, or I'm from here, or I'm going here, the more connection points that you mention during a conversation, the more likely you are to like really make a good connection that's useful to you, right? It may lead to, you know, you're at a networking event. I saw actually a friend of mine on Friday who I hadn't seen for a long time. He's working in DC. And so, you know, oh, I'd love to introduce you to my friend Mayor. You know, he's working in DC. He has a remote job. You know, he might know something for you, you know, if that's something you're interested in. So you want to give somebody something that they can say, oh, I know somebody, or I know about this opportunity, or I know about this company, and they can share with you or ask you more questions about it. So I know that you all are probably listening in or maybe walking, but, you know, in a sentence or two, can you describe yourself like this? So I want this to be easy. I want it to be, you know, I guess it's simple, not easy, but I want you to make a sentence that demonstrates some self-awareness as to who you are, what you're doing in law school, and kind of what your goals are. Okay. And so again, I mentioned this earlier, but it's a mistake that I can see that a lot of students make is that we tend to want to be maybe a little bit self-deprecating or negative, or we just like, I got my grades and I got a C+ in crim law, you know, and so you want to talk about some of the negative things first, but I really encourage you to think about, you know, you're going to direct the conversation. Hi, how are you? You know, what do you do for work, etc. You're going to direct the conversation. Be sure to be positive about it. If you're enthusiastic about your career goal, they're more likely to respond and to want to help you. So I again, this is something that can be difficult. This is definitely, I can tell you how to do it, but the working with you individually is something that is a really good thing to schedule. Hey, a 15-minute career conference. I want you to reflect a little bit on what your goals are, what your strengths are, and you know, then we go from there. And then I just would re-emphasize that first impressions do matter. Being positive when you're feeling uncertain can be difficult. So again, we want you to practice. Brad and I are here to help you practice, help you identify your strengths. And that's exactly where we want to move. We want to move you to the things you're good at, to the things that you like, to the places that you enjoy. Okay, so where are we going to do this? How are we going to figure out how to do this? Number one, career services. Again, those of you on the call, no strangers to career services. But I will say that, the 1L process that we do with students, it does tend to evolve as you get some more experience and find some interest. And, we learn a little bit more about you. I mean, I'll say, I know I can think of a student off the top of my head. The first time he came to me, he said, I want to be a healthcare lawyer. Okay, get you in healthcare law class. Let's do this. Goes out and does it. He's like, that is so boring. So many regulations. I don't like that. And he goes work for a judge. I'm like, okay, do you want to pursue that? And he's like, also no. Don't want to be sitting at a desk all day. Okay, so like, what's what's the next thing? And this person, kind of found an area of law working with the clientele that he really enjoyed based on a class that he had taken. And so then we move in that direction. It's going to evolve. That's very natural. Having a goal today doesn't mean that it has to be the same goal in 6 months. Okay. So that's a very good reason though to keep coming back with us, checking in with us, and telling us what's going good. Bar associations are kind of the first place that we tell students to get involved. Here in West Virginia, we have the West Virginia Bar Association. We have the Monongalia County Bar Association. The County Bar Association, a lot of times they'll do like lunch and learns or afternoon happy hours or something like that. It's just going to be a Google search for you to try to find what the Bar Association is. I know one of you on here is in Pittsburgh, so the Allegheny County Bar Association has a big website. They have a career services office, and so that's like a place to start, to just poke around and see what you can find. And if there is an event, it may be hard to say, okay, I'm going to go to it, but register for it, go to it. Oftentimes you won't know anybody. If you could go with, a fellow law student, that can be helpful. But I will say one thing, is that people love seeing and hearing from law students. So don't be afraid to lead with that. I'm a law student. People get really excited to be honest. One of the places that I love to be at any kind of event, because I don't necessarily like working a room, I really like to be at the check-in table. So sometimes if you can offer your assistance, that can be a good way to meet people. And then also, don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm doing this summer, but I'm interested in learning more about opportunities for next summer, or opportunities for post-grad. Okay, so say maybe you've met somebody out, and maybe your aunt says, oh, I know a lawyer over in, Richmond. And you're like, okay, well, aunt, please introduce me to that person. How am I going to do that? Or say, I don't even know how I'm going to find a lawyer in the market I want to be in. I'm going to go ahead and pop out of this. Let me change my screen share to a couple ways that before you even find your aunt, how you might find somebody. So this site is called martindale.com. It is a pretty good directory of lawyers. It's not perfect. It's not everybody everywhere, but it's martindale.com. I started at home. I searched West Virginia University College of Law. Can you nod? Are you seeing the martindale.com? Red? Okay. All right. Search here. So this is a directory of all the grads that we have on Martindale. This seems actually a little bit low, but a lot of people want to go to DC, Rockville. All right, so there we go. We found 56 results of people who are in the DC area, Rockville, Maryland, and you can identify people here. This is, again, it's an attorney kind of directory. But it might be a place that you find somebody who's a WVU law grad. Being an alum of WVU law is already a connection point in and of itself. Another place that you might find grads that you want to target is here. I'm logged into my LinkedIn page. I clicked on to WVU College of Law. I'm going to click alumni over here. Okay, so we can see that we have 3,300 alumni here on LinkedIn. Let's see who else I have on here. Trying to think of a location that we might, maybe somebody wants to go work in Orlando. Right, we didn't find them. How about? It's got to be wrong because this is actually a friend of mine. Oh, okay, here we go. This is people. Yeah, this is people from Richmond that, went here. These are actually people from my cohort that I would be happy if this is a place that you want to go and you're interested in the area of law, that you can find some people who are from the market and you might want to connect with them and ask them. Another resource that I recently found is WVU Connect, and this is something that's organized by the West Virginia University Alumni Association. It's a site that's a little bit like Facebook. It's pretty new, so I don't necessarily know how many people are on here. I just got my account, and you can click on here, find a mentor. Let's see here. Google. This is a recent grad who's down in Charleston, West Virginia. Obviously, Vice President Alsop is on here. So there's a lot of alum who have made profiles. And what's pretty neat about this one is that most of the people, it's a pretty new resource from the Alumni Association. So most of the people on here who have said they're willing to help, they do want to be contacted and can be a great, again, way to find grads. All right. Okay. So now we have So now we've identified a target using the resources here. Martindale, LinkedIn, maybe you've called me in career services and said, hey, I saw your friend Drew Kirkner who works for the insurance mutual team out of Richmond. Can you introduce me to him? WVU Connect, a referral from your aunt or, a former boss or whatnot. We're going to send out maybe an introductory email letter. And it might go something like this. So we're not at a networking happy hour. We've heard of this lawyer in this market that we just have to meet, or we've gone to a networking happy hour and have met somebody and they say they're going to introduce us to the friend and we have their email. Send an email. My name is Lauren. I'm a third-year law student at WVU. Based on my experience, again, this is that introduction paragraph. Based on my experience, I'm interested in pursuing career options in Orlando, Florida. I want to go to Florida because I love Disney World. Or just learning generally more about litigation. If you have a few minutes to spare, I would appreciate the opportunity to connect by phone or on Zoom, and then just send your contact information. And one thing I will say about scheduling is that you want to be pretty flexible. If this person will give you some time and they say, oh, I'm available Thursday at noon, you want to be pretty flexible as to when you can meet. If that means you need to step out for 20 minutes or whatever. And then you want to, come prepared to ask this person questions. And I will say one of the other things is I think that a lot of times with a networking contact, a better posture is not, hey, you're a lawyer, are you hiring at your office? The answer may be yes, it can work. It can be part of the conversation, but again, that's transactional. We want you to be building relationships. So you're going to want to ask them some questions. How did you decide to work here? How did you find your work here? Do you have a sense of the market for new attorneys in your location? Because, I'm 10 years out, the market for an experienced attorney or somebody with some specialization is going to be different than the market for, the first job. What are some resources you would recommend to find jobs? They may say, finding jobs on LinkedIn. They may have no sense whatsoever at all. Just you're asking questions to learn about the market for lawyers there and kind of what they're hiring in. Almost anybody in West Virginia is going to say, here in West Virginia, we do a lot of energy law, whether that's, running title on land or working for, the companies. That's a huge part of our economy here. And so that's a lot of what lawyers do. If you're going to another market, you want to get a sense of what the legal issues the lawyers are thinking about and working on. And then some more just general questions about, what is it that you do as a lawyer? What do you like about it? What's challenging about it? And then, of course, do you have any advice for someone in my position? And then to keep, again, the network going, the last question you want to ask is, do you have any recommendations for any colleagues or others in your field I should reach out to? They may then, you've made one contact, they may then help you find another contact. You know, we don't, it's not a bad thing if they don't, but at the same time, if they have somebody that they can introduce you to, you can build that network. You always want to say thank you. Again, be very respectful of their time. Sometimes, you know, you may have taken something valuable for that conversation, or there may be things that don't apply to you. That's okay. But be sure to say thank you, and then stay in touch with periodic updates. You know, I can think of a lawyer from my hometown who she, you know, when I was going to law school, had given me some advice. And so making sure to give her an update. Hey, you know, I finished my first year of law school. I'm going to go back and work in Huntington. You know, everything you said was true. Thank you so much for your time. And then, of course, you want to stay connected on LinkedIn. That's just a really easy way to do it. What it's for. All right. So how to do it without being awkward. I do want to acknowledge that, again, this is simple. It's not easy. It doesn't feel good. It feels awkward. But it will get easier with experience. So to the extent that you need a little push, you're feeling nervous, I want you to just accept that that's normal, that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone, but that as you do that more and more, as you meet people, as you talk to people, it will get more comfortable. So again, experience. And then I want you to keep track of what you're up to. Again, what's measured, what gets measured gets managed. I do have a sample tracker. Let's see here. Stop my share. Of things that you might want to track. So on the first thing, I have just plain old networking actions. This is sheet number 1 in this Excel document. Write down the date of what you're doing, the action that you took. I went to a happy hour. I looked up some employers on Martindale. I talked to my friend about XYZ. I went to lunch with my boss. Any follow-up steps you're going to take? You know, what came of that conversation? What do I need to do? I went to lunch with, you know, a contact, or I had coffee with a contact. My follow-up step is I need to send them a thank you note. Or, you know, I went to this networking happy hour and I met 3 attorneys. My follow-up step is that I need to connect with them on LinkedIn and thank them, you know, for their insight and conversation. And then a date for the follow-up. Again, what gets measured gets managed. So we're just kind of keeping a nice log of what we're doing and reflecting on this. And the most successful networking people do this in some form or fashion, whether it's I go to a conference and I drop myself an Outlook note, or I take, you know, business cards from when I'm at a conference, and when I get home, I send that person an email. It was really great to connect with them on LinkedIn. Next time I'm going to that conference, I email them in advance and say, hey, Elizabeth, are you going to be at the conference this year? So you keep some form of spreadsheet, some form of strategy. Along the way, one of the things, especially if you're an out-of-state student, is that you might learn of an employer or a business or a firm through the course of your conversation or through your work. You write that down. You know, maybe I know one of you is like at a government agency doing some work. And when I was at the government agency, we had outside counsel, right? And I had to call outside counsel, and this person worked for a firm called Lavender McCorkle Sweeney. Never heard of them, but now, you know, maybe I know this employer, write them down, go home to look them up. So that can be another good way to just identify who's hiring lawyers, where do lawyers work in my market, what are these agencies and things. For example, I had the chance to meet up with a friend of mine from law school, and frankly, I didn't know what he did. I said, Mayor, you know, where do you work? He says, oh, I work at FINRA. And I'm like, what, you know, what's FINRA? And so now I know a little bit about his agency, and what FINRA is they are an agency founded that the government wanted kind of a watchdog, a financial watchdog. And so he monitors transactions that are trades that are happening on the NASDAQ and on the S&P, whatever world. So like kind of like financial monitoring. It's a private company, but it was made by an administrative agency. I didn't know that existed before I talked to him and I asked him what he did and how his work went. So now, though, I know that that's an employer in DC and that they do hire interns. And so that's, you know, a little bit how it works, right? So now in my little mental Rolodex, okay, somebody wants to go to DC. Would you be interested in X? You just know a little bit. And then application. So if you are at the point where you're applying for a job, this might be something that you keep track of all the places you've applied to and things like that. Okay, so we're back to the screen. Okay, so now another way that you might find a job out of state is obviously responding to a job post. Well, the national statistics suggest that 20% of people find jobs through job postings, and certainly I know that many of your classmates are finding jobs through OCI. It may be a little bit frustrating for you or a little bit harder for you to find the job post. And so what I would encourage you to do here is choose, locate relevant job posts, figure out where jobs for interns are being posted, and check that, a few times a week. Make yourself a flag. For all students, you want to go to Akron, Ohio. You need to set a flag for legal internships in Akron, Ohio on LinkedIn. And then you'll get, kind of a digest for legal internships in Akron. Sometimes the jobs are posted there. Simplicity is, of course, a very good job search site. So the benefit of Simplicity is that it's going to be typically very relevant job posts for law grads in West Virginia. To the extent that obviously we're not going to have a lot of our alum in Indianapolis, if you would like to get reciprocal access to the Simplicity of Indiana University, often we can help you get that in career services. So that means that you would be able to have access to their job search, their law school supported job search portal. And then other direct employer sites, particularly for government and public interest positions. A lot of times, here in West Virginia, our state court clerkships are posted on the West Virginia Supreme Court site. They have a whole page dedicated to it. They have kind of like their own HR department. Any place that would have their own HR department is often going to post their jobs on a site. And then other online job search resources. We have access to something called the Intercollegiate Job Bank, which is a helpful resource. The Vermont Clerkships Guide, good for finding state court clerkships in other states. Obviously, Indeed and LinkedIn. Results vary, but another one that you might, again, find, like I mentioned, Allegheny County Bar Association, they also have a career services page, so that can be helpful. Again, so direct applications, I know that some of you have done this. It is necessary a lot of times your first summer. That is when you're just calling an employer and asking them if they'll take a resume or sending an employer resume cold. One thing I want you to understand about a direct application is while it can be a good method, you would expect a less than 5% response rate to this. So the volume is going to need to be high. And so we don't want this to be your primary way, but again, it can be a very good way. A lot of times you might call an attorney and say, hey, I'm a student. I'm looking for some experience. Do you need any assistance? I had a student who works in Virginia who she knows that she wants to work in like kind of estate planning sorts of work in her particular town. So she like literally figured out, who does estate planning in my area and called them all. So that made a lot of sense. It was a very particular interest in a very particular area that made sense for her to do that. And she was able to yield a job. So it depends on what you're doing. And a lot of times it's about timing when you reach out to employers. If you called a small practitioner in September and said, hey, I want a job for next summer, probably not going to happen. You reach out to that same employer in April and say, hey, I can be there in a month. That's going to, be more valuable to them. So along those lines, timing is everything. For big law firms, if you're interested in going into big law, their recruitment process is typically happening starting right now, and they'll be hiring basically through September-ish, August, September. Most of their positions are filled that way. The people who are going to be extremely strong candidates for that are people who are in moot court, law review, top 25 to 30% of the class. And one thing I would actually add to that, it depends on kind of what your professional background is and any sort of special skills you may have. If you have a personal connection to that firm, definitely reach out to them. In the small to mid-sized firms, and that's what we see in West Virginia, a lot of times they're not going to be hiring till spring. It depends on your market. And so what I would say to you all, going to other markets, number one, right now we're networking. We're going to a bar CLE. We're figuring out lawyers in that area. And then as part of networking, figuring out if this is a target employer, what their hiring season looks like. And a lot of times that's just asking, do you hire interns? When do you hire interns? And they may say, go ahead and send it on over now. Or they may say, we start talking to interns in December. Again, that's something, you may want to talk over with me or Brad to kind of think about what kind of employer do I have? When should I reach out to them? Government. I think it's really important if you want to do state government to kind of keep track of what the internship opportunities are. Here in West Virginia, some agencies hire, some agencies don't hire, interns or entry-level grads, or they may not hire them often for until you're like postgraduate. And even then they want you to have a bar license. For the federal government is very similar. Even for entry-level attorneys, like you can't even apply for the job until you have a bar license unless you're going through one of their honors programs or some of their pathways programs. A lot of them have a pathways like internship program or an honors attorney position. Use the Arizona guides. Those are on Simplicity. They're going to migrate over to the library. But we have resources, and it's just really important that you understand what the deadlines for that are. A lot of the federal government honors program deadlines for 2L summer, so the next summer, you would need to apply for them this fall. Local prosecutors, city attorney, public defenders, those kinds of things. Sometimes they may have them posted on their website. Again, it's just, you're gonna, number one, identify that entity as a target employer. Figure out maybe from their website or from calling them, do you hire entry-level grads? When do you hire? Trying to figure out what their hiring timeline looks like. Judicial clerkships, federal judicial clerkships. You all are 1Ls on that I'm seeing right now. If you want to apply for a federal judicial clerkship, that's going to start next January. You're going to be able to create an account to apply for that sort of job. And then it keeps going. State court judicial clerkships. Here in West Virginia, they only hire postgraduate jobs. And I do recommend, if you're interested in a state court judicial clerkship, which is often a really good way to go to get started when you're going out of market, just because it gives you experience with the jurisdiction and so forth. It's going to be similar. So I do recommend that you come to the state court program that we're going to have on September 14th. Just hearing from those judges and what they're looking for in a law clerk is going to be helpful for you all. Again, some courts hire way in advance, others hire for immediate needs. We have a guide that lists out all the state courts for all 50 states and kind of what their hiring timelines look like. It's a very helpful resource. Right now that lives on Simplicity, soon it will live with the library. And then the websites for the specific courts. A lot of times we'll see, clerkships for courts just north of us in PA. They'll just put it right on their website. Okay. If anybody wants to ask a question, you're more than welcome to drop it in the chat. I would love to answer it. Unfortunately, my sound is not working. And again, I started with this image. I want you to keep this image in your mind. We are doing a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be the value of a lot of small interactions and small steps and small efforts to get you where you want to go. Final thoughts. You have time. All of you on here are 1Ls, even if you're a 2L or a 3L. Anybody who is practicing law will tell you how their contacts come back to them and how time flies. And I can't emphasize this enough. The day that you plant the seed is not the day that you eat the fruit. We don't know what you're going to yield, if it's going to be something, in 2 years or 5 years or in 2 months. We want you to engage in the process and know that by engaging in the process, you'll get to the outcome, but that just it's not going to be linear for you, for most people. Use hiring timelines to guide you. There are some things we can control, some things we can't control. Employers hire when they hire. Figuring out when the type of employer you want to be at might be hiring will help you understand that, here's what I can do and here's, what's outside of my control. And then everything I've talked about today is an overview. Some of it will apply to you, some of it won't. When you come to us for your individualized strategy session and brainstorm, it can really just kind of help give you a personalized roadmap that we want you to have to support you in your job search. Thank you all for being here. Don't see any questions in the chat. Like I said, thank you all for taking your time to be here. I'm going to put those resources. I'm going to put the PowerPoint. I'm going to put, yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to put the PowerPoint in Simplicity. I'm going to put the tracker in Simplicity, some of those links, and of course, the copy of the video. And thank you all. Take care.